Hi, and welcome back to the show. And I'm with John Broons, the family business guy. How are you, John?
Good, thanks, Mike.
John, get a lot of people that are families in business, and I think one of the biggest questions that I see come up consistently is how come some families in business just seem to get along and it all seems to work, and other ones, they disintegrate and it turns into a big mess?
Yeah, these things happen. And a lot of people have done a fair bit of research on this to try and work out what it is that breaks the families. And in a lot of cases that I've come across, generally the family dynamics change over time. So as a family that is working hard in their business, a mum or dad together, and the kids come in and they're working early before school and late after school, stuffing envelopes with invoices.
I'm thinking of my kids there, John.
Okay.
Free labour. Free labour.
Yeah, and that's how some of these businesses start.
Yeah.
When they grow and the kids have this emotional connection to the business, if there's more than one kid, there's, okay, we've got to share it round maybe, and the business will grow. People will come in, employees. Sometimes the kids get sidelined, they'll go to school, they'll get an education, and they may or may not come to the business. And when they come to the business, what are the rules about coming into the business? What are the rules about leaving the business? Have we had these conversations?
That one you said there, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but the rules on leaving the business, that's an interesting one. I mean, we see that in business partnerships. If me and you went into business, we'd have those rules.
If we had a partnership agreement, there would be some sort of conversation we will have expected to have had.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that.
No. Well, yeah, probably. But in business, I was always taught you go into a business partnership, you've got to have entry rules, you've got to have exit rules.
Yeah. Well,
and you're saying this applies to family.
Of course it applies to family. If you're... we're going off topic. So
yeah, sorry.
Here we go, just to follow this particular train. If you've got a son or a daughter who comes in and spends time in the business, and you say, listen, it's one particular example where a son had finished a job for a period of years. Dad says, why don't you come in to help me for 3 months? And 15 months later, when I asked the question of the son, so have you got a contract? And no. I said, so was there a conversation about how you come into the business? No. I said, so do you feel the salary's fair? And Dad's sitting next to him and Mum's sitting next to him. And it's like, no. I said, so what happens if you want to leave? Shrugging of shoulders and looking at Dad and no comment. And I said, well, there's no contract, is there? But if you have employees who are hired by skills or for a particular purpose that are unskilled, it doesn't matter. They will be under an award, or they will have a contract and hire dates and fire dates and what you can do and what you can't do, what they can do, what they can't do. So why shouldn't that also stick with families?
Excellent. It just caught me, and I know we're talking about families that succeed and don't succeed, but just when you just mentioned that, then it was just like, it was one of the moments of going, it's like, is it the blinding flash of the obvious, some people say?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That we don't see.
Family, or people that will hire family members, in some cases come and give us a hand for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it gets to be a couple of months, and then it can be a couple of years. And sometimes it's a very long time, and you've missed your chance to think about, gee, I should have gone out and done something else with my life.
Yeah.
And some people will say, well, it's your fault.
Oh.
They don't take ownership. So we have those sorts of problems that do pop up sometimes, where people have given many, many years of service and they feel they've been dudded, especially when the business gets sold.
Oh.
And then, where's my share? Your share?
Yeah.
Well, I've put in just as much as you, and you're my brother. You might own it, but Mum and Dad left it to both of us, didn't they? So where's the shares, and where's the agreement, and where are the conversations?
Ouch. So getting back, because I'm dragging you off topic.
No, that was actually back on the topic. Why do they come?
This is part of these dynamics you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow. So we've got to this stage, and is this what you're saying starts to disintegrate? Is it almost, I hate to use the word lack of trust, but is it because the things aren't discussed that certain members of the family don't know where they fit properly? It's kind of it's always...
You have to have a conversation about why you're being hired, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a contract about the work that I'm doing, and that at least gives me some understanding of how long I'm expected to be there. Is it a 1-year contract? Is it a 5-year contract? Is it a never-ending contract? If I want to leave, I need to be in control of me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The business needs to be under the control of those people leading the business.
Yeah.
So if I join in and I actually want to jump on the train and go on the train of the business, great. But I also need to know how to get off the train. And if the train driver says, no, I don't like you, I need to know how to exit you. So that is part of it. Then you've got so many other parts that will come to play. You need to know who you are. Those conversations are important. The business needs to know what it is. But the family, which is even something that's different again from the train of the business, okay? The family needs to know what it stands for. Do we really want to be here for the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years? And if so, what does it look like? Because we need to know how to handle change of the environment, change of the economy, change of the location, change of the product, change of the customer, change of the supplier, change of the government. In 100 years, a lot can happen. So we need to be able to have these conversations, and if we don't have them somewhere along the way, we as an individual, I can be challenged. As a family, I can be challenged. And as a business, I can be challenged.
So when you consult with families that are in business, as well as helping them get these structures and these conversations happening, are you also then constructing it so they know how to continue these conversations? So through the changes in environment, through government, through customers, it becomes part of their organisation.
Ideally, the family will grow, the individual grows, the business will grow. The business already has a structure. Okay, in most cases, you start off as a small trader, you might become a partnership, you might become incorporated, and sometimes you can go public. The fact is the business has a path, and they grow, and they have structures, and they have processes and procedures. What I try and help families do is have some of that processes and procedures around what they do, and understand what ownership means, and how that will have effect on processes and procedures. And in the ownership thing, we have what's called a board of directors, quite possibly, as the business professionalises and gets bigger. So we need to understand how that works as well. There's another part of this conversation, Mike, and that's what happens as the family changes over time. I talked about the demographics and how we move forward, but really, as families, individuals in families age, yes, older people will step out, but the younger people, as they grow up, the kids, they tend to find partners and get married, and that changes the family dynamic. The culture of the family will change. You bring some other person in, they may be of a different religion, they could be a different ethnic origin, they could be Spanish, Russian, Italian, Greek, French, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, it doesn't matter.
No.
If they're different to the way you got brought up, there's going to be some difference of perspective when you come into the family. So you can have family disagreements that have absolutely nothing to do with the business, that will fracture a family, that in turn will carry into the business, whether it's because an individual's in there or whether two or more people are in there from the family. conversations can be shortened, they can be anger that can be brought into the business place, and it can break that way. It doesn't have to be business issues that will break the family. It can be family issues that can break the business.
And I guess that's when you've talked so many times when you talk about family businesses and you say, well, it's actually a family that's just in business. And you're saying because it is a family that's in business together, those family dynamics that are coming in, they must be really challenging at times, because you can't pick your daughter's partner or your son's partner if it's mum and dad has a business, and sometimes it's like...
Sometimes they try and
sometimes
they do.
Yeah, true. But, I mean, you yourself, you've been through this. You went and bought your family business.
Yeah, there was a financial restructuring of the family and the business for me to extricate myself from the family stuff that was going on.
Yeah. So... when you did, how difficult was that for you then to start having conversations and keep the family together and still united through something that is a massive change? Because there's a big power shift now change.
Yeah, the way I worked it was I had to have conversations with my sisters and my mother and my brothers-in-law and my stepfather about what we were all about, and our primary focus was always family. So the business was just part of the conversation, and yet it was driving a lot of the angst because of the economical environment of the day.
Yes.
And that was navigating, having conversations, trying to achieve outcomes that were agreed by all family members to be fair.
So agreed by all family members.
Yeah. And sometimes the stuff that goes on about kids, grandkids, grandmas, grandpas, what Uncle Jack did, or Uncle Jimmy did, or Auntie Faye did, or you can look through genograms of different families that have been in business for many, many years, and there are secrets and there are liaisons and there are all sorts of carry-ons that will shape the family and the business going forward. So we also, as a professional working in this field, I will try to find out as much as I can about the history of the family to see what sort of paradigms get played out through generations.
So when you're talking about in-laws and outlaws, as we colloquially call them in Australia,
okay.
And they're coming in, what is the best way for a business? So this is a family business, say it's a son or a daughter, and they suddenly married, and they turn around and they say, well, now I'm married, my partner should be in the business, John.
If it was me, okay, I'd say, okay, do I need a job in the business filled? And if there isn't a job for him in the business, then I'm not necessarily going to give him, I'm not going to make a job. I'm not going to pay extra expense if there isn't requirement for it. So there's a conversation that would have to be had with the daughter many years earlier. We will only employ if we need jobs filled, and those jobs that we fill will need to be filled by somebody who's capable of doing those jobs, and we will pay the person benchmark. So we will pay within the vicinity of whatever it takes if somebody was doing a comparable job in another industry similar to ours.
So your attitude is that just because we're a family and we're in business, there is no entitlement just because you're a member of the family to have a job in the business.
That's my position. But different families will be different.
Yes.
And that's their choice.
And I guess that's where someone like yourself, and you sit down at a boardroom table with these people, or their dinner tables probably sometimes with these people, they must be the challenging conversations that you have to navigate and not so much steer, but mediate. Would that be a good term for what you do in those circumstances?
I prefer the term facilitate the conversation.
You facilitate it, yeah.
And the reason I use that word instead of mediate is it's not a matter of mediation. There's not going to be a winner or loser out of all of this. This has got to be a win-win for everybody. We all have to have that picture in our head. How do we actually go on from here? Because if we're staying as a family together and in business together, how do we make sure that we can even have an argument and still walk away friends?
Is this the same attitude that comes up, say I married into the family, but I already have a business.
Yep.
But now I say, well, we're a family. You should buy your products and services off me rather than them.
Sometimes that happens. But here's the conversation that needs to be had. Why should I buy it from you? Is the product better, cheaper? Is it going to help me in my business? Yes, I understand I can be an extra sale for you, but it's got to be a value exchange. So to me, if you're in a family business, you want to try and achieve win-win.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then everybody can hopefully remain happy with outcomes. So in this case, I would need to know much more about what was being offered from the family, from the son-in-law, the new son-in-law, who said, oh, I've got this business on the side, you should buy my product instead. But I'd also like to know more about the family's business. Do these products, are they aligned? Are they working for the same benefits? Is it an improvement for our business? Or is it just something that we're going to, if it's a line ball, maybe you might support a son-in-law. The son-in-law would need to understand then that if something else came in cheaper, you might leave the son-in-law, or if the son-in-law's product became less environmentally friendly or had difficulties with it, you might move. So yes, there's an opportunity because it is a relationship.
Yeah.
That's what brings the opportunity together. But we also need to be understanding of, okay, if the business environment changes, we need to both be flexible enough to say, time's moving, things are changing, we need to make our moves.
So even though families in business bring emotions into the business, you're saying that the actual end of the day, you still need to treat it as business.
In business, we're out to make sales, generate wealth, and if we're in a family business, we generally like to have some fun and have a nice place of work.
Yeah.
But we also like to have a nice place of work so that the employees will stay.
True.
Okay? That said, the family side of things, if that's the driving force, then we're going to try and stay aligned and happy in everything we do.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily bring the emotions of the family into the business. Yes, we can have fun and yes, we can be happy, but we need this conversation and what are the rules about how we bring ourselves and how we represent the business. And some businesses are very different. Some businesses will be 24/7. Some businesses will be in different avenues. They could be aligned with some sporting things, so they're out there on the weekends saying our team's great, I need to be wearing the colours of the team, therefore what are the rules of the family? If we're wearing the colours of the team or the company, are we allowed to drink socially because it's our weekend and yet we're out there representing the business? So there's a lot more conversations that maybe we haven't thought of to have.
Hence John's favourite saying, when you've seen one family in business, you've only ever seen one family in business.
There's another thing too, Mike.
Okay.
And I won't say it's the last one, but it's certainly another one.
Yeah.
And family dynamics family businesses can be shattered by the fact that sometimes those founders or the older generation, they just can't bring themselves to leave. And how do we go about structuring that so that we can actually keep the business going, at the same time showing respect to the older generation, at the same time giving the power to the younger generation? And it's real middle ground. And when they're all family businesses are different, right? All the people are different. We're playing all sorts of music, okay? And everybody's playing a different instrument. And sometimes you can get some really lousy sounds, okay?
That's a great analogy.
If you had somebody that was able to have the conversations that would elicit the trust that maybe we could move people from, I have to be here 24/7s, every day, every week. I've done it for the last 40 years and I plan on doing it for the next 40 years. That's not necessarily going to be in the best interests of everybody, but how do we have those conversations so that the older generation realise that maybe it is time, and doing it in a way that the younger generation are respectful of the older generation, that it's not just a hammer and tongs and move out, move over, I'm taking the chair now.
Yeah.
And then you also have the older generation, sometimes they'll not even have a will. Okay, so there's a very large section of owner businesses where the owners don't have wills.
Wow.
Okay, and that's a critical thing for businesses.
Yeah.
Because in different countries, in different jurisdictions, in Australia, for example, the state trustee takes over, and you may not be able to get to that individual's bank accounts. You may not be able to get into that whatever control that individual had if they pass.
Yeah.
Family members can't access any of that person's assets or business pieces because there is no will.
I've seen it actually happen where they've had a family trust, and one member of the family was the executor of the trust, or whatever you call them, for distribution, and they passed away unexpectedly, and no one else had access to the trust. It was just and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
To start trying to get it to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Even though husband's saying, yeah, but it was my wife, because obviously they've done it for protection issues. Yeah. Well, you're not on it. You might be a beneficiary, but you're not.
So you can see why do family businesses break down. We don't necessarily know even what mum and dad might have in their will.
No.
So I encourage people to have conversations. If we don't know what's in mum and dad's will, and there's 2 kids that aren't in the business and 2 kids that are, have we ever talked about what's fair and what's reasonable and what's equitable and, equal and, I'm getting the business, you don't get anything?
We see a lot, we used to see a lot of that we're in West Australia for those overseas viewers and listeners, but we used to see a lot of that with our farming, didn't we? It was a very much...
Farming is very much a difficult area from that point of view.
Yeah, you're the first son, you get it, and the oldest daughter says, I was here first. And they're going, And we've seen a lot of difficulties in farms, just particular to West.
And siblings then get frustrated, they get angry because it gets to be a little bit based around greed, which dislocates family, which means the cousins, the next generation, the 3rd or 4th or 5th generation, they won't talk to each other because mum and dad won't talk to each other, therefore we've got that disconnect. So it's a much bigger issue than people sometimes think about.
So how many years have you actually been doing this now, John?
Over 30 years, I don't know, more.
So you obviously seen hundreds of clients in doing this. What are the types of businesses you've actually personally navigated through and helped them on their path to get exactly what they want?
Oh, there's a number of manufacturing businesses, there's farming businesses, a few service industries. It's been quite a mix.
Yeah.
It's been quite a mix.
Have you found with the families in the business that there are particular industries a little bit more, or types of family businesses that have been a little bit more difficult or challenging to navigate through the complexities? Or is it just the families? There's certain families that are more complex due to whatever that's in there.
Generally, the family business stuff is the stuff that I come in for.
Yeah.
The complexity of the business is not necessarily a big part of the conversations.
Right.
It's more about where the individuals are playing within the business, whether they're trained, whether they've had experience outside, whether they're competent, whether they're able to work with others. And that crosses over from the business into the family sphere. How do we get along? Some families have a black sheep, and that person has never been spoken to for 20, 30 years. But pops up when dad passes away. You know what I mean? So across the board, it comes down to the people. Therefore, the conversations.
So for you get engaged into, and every family is different, and I'm just saying for a little bit of generality, you get engaged. Is there a period of time for yourself which is the intense time for yourself? Because I know you like to speak to all the family members. Is this what you try to do? Is this like your consistent approach? Get a complete overview of each family member first?
I try to.
Yeah.
I try to get a big picture. And I spend quite a bit of time doing that. Mm-hmm. Without that initial time spent with family members, I can't get to know the questions that I need to ask when I get everybody together in a group about the challenges that they're all facing.
And so you use that process to unpack or reveal the dynamics that are going in and the challenges that those dynamics might be creating. Is that what you're looking for there, so then you can start to find the pathways?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I need to understand the individual. I need to understand the group.
Yeah.
And that's part of the work that I do.
I know you're short of time. I know you've got to go to another appointment, but I've got you in the studio. I've got to ask you one question. 30 odd years you've been doing this. Why? Why?
It's a question that came up the other day. In fact, I was with some colleagues, and it's just, obviously for me, it's a big part of, I use the word heart. I've been through changing family business structures, experiences. I think I was quite lucky, but I also think I had the right conversations at the right time with my family. And not everybody knows the right conversations or the right time, and that's why I say I was quite lucky. And I just found it so interesting and enjoyable, and I see the possibilities of families breaking down. Yeah. And if I think I can be a help to families who are in business, so that helps families, which to me makes me feel good. And if I can help businesses, that means it's going to help hopefully grow the economy and make jobs for other people as well.
On that, how do people contact you? Family in business, they've got some dynamics going on and they're going, let's get you in to help us navigate through this successfully. What's the best way of contacting yourself, John?
Email's a great way, john@johnbroons.com, and connect me through that. Or mobile phone is Australia 0433 131 070. And if you're calling internationally, it's +61 433.
And they can jump on the website, and you've actually got your little 15-minute spots on there. Someone can book in, have a quick chat with you, and see where it goes from there.
Certainly.
Once again, John Broons, the family business guy. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.